Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through a video as if I'm doing a demo, and then you're going to, my suggestion is that you just watch this video over and over, and you will just get an understanding of exactly when I'm doing what. I'll highlight, obviously, the things that I'm busy clicking on that I wouldn't normally say during a demo, but I'm just going to highlight them. Now, the things that I suggest you get ready before you start the demo is, firstly, I would recommend you already have the admin tool open. So you double click the admin tool. The password for the admin tool is demo_CLA. Enter. Okay. So have the admin tool open. Wait for this button to turn green. It takes a few seconds. Once the button is turned green, then you will be able, if you click on it, double click on it, yeah, turn green. Then you go modules, and you then open up, say, the survey screen. Just to have a screen open. Let's just wait for that to open. There we go. Okay. So I would suggest having the admin tool open and ready like this, minimized, and something like Excel open on the screen. Okay. Then at this point, I wouldn't share the screen yet. I think the first part, the introduction part, you don't have the screen sharing. This is obviously assuming you're doing the demo remotely, where you're going to be having your camera on, you're going to be speaking to the customer, and then I will tell you at which point I think you should start sharing your screen. Okay, so at this point, this is the introduction. I'm going to start the demo as if I'm doing a demo to a customer. So you can just listen to the words I'm using and then just obviously translate it into Portuguese if it's going to be in Portuguese. But just the content that I'm covering, and I will tell you the timings of when you share your screen, which I find works best. Okay, so firstly, you introduce the welcome to the demo, and the purpose of the demo, and you then just start explaining the problem. So firstly, the reason why companies battle to communicate with staff and why staff communications is so ineffective is because most companies, in the absence of a platform like CLA, they resort to using internal email. Now, the volumes of email that is currently being used in the corporate world is excessive. Staff get too many emails every day. They are constantly battling to try to keep on top of their inbox. And if you expect staff now to pay attention to emails that are around internal communications or HR announcements or IT announcements or change management emails, or emails about vision or blood drive or any of that, it's not going to happen. Staff just get too many emails every day, and if you expect them to pay attention to emails being sent for internal communications, it's not going to happen. So instead, CLA has got a number of different modules which increase the company's ability to communicate with staff. They increase the awareness that is achievable to the staff, but very specifically in a way that reduces the amount of internal emails. Okay, now all of this is still being done without your screen being shared, okay? Your camera is on, they're watching you, but there's no screen being shared yet. Now, the CLA modules that are available in the CLA platform, the different modules, there are 7 modules that make up the solution. And we like to separate the modules into 2 different categories. So the first set of categories, or the first category of modules, is what we call our subliminal channels. And these are the modules of CLA that are designed very specifically to communicate with staff, but almost in a way that they do not realize that it's happening. Okay, that's why we use the term subliminal modules. These are modules that communicate with staff in a way that they don't realize that they're actually being communicated with. And then there's a second set of modules which we call our impact channels. So these are the channels that have got impact. They are interactive. So the subliminal channels, they're not interactive. The user is not required to click on anything. They're not required to read anything specifically. They're not required to respond to anything. They do not need to acknowledge anything or open anything. It's just subliminal. They just need to work with their eyes open, and they will be communicated with. Whereas the impact channels, these are interactive. They require the user to either click on something, open something, respond something, access something. So they are interactive, and that's why they're called our impact channels, and the other ones are called our subliminals. So what we're going to do first is we're first going to show you or take you through the 3 subliminal modules. And then once we've gone through the subliminal modules, we'll then take you through the impact modules. Now, at this point, I suggest you share your screen. But just before you share your screen, you right-click on the desktop and you choose personalize, okay? And you'll see here that under your background, you can choose one of the Windows backgrounds like this, okay? And then you share your screen so that the first thing your prospective customer sees is a desktop background. That's the Windows desktop background, okay? There's no CLA being pushed on this desktop. So now you speak through and you say, well, the first module that I want to explain to you is the use of the desktop background or the wallpaper to communicate CLA messages. And then you can say, as you can see, previously we had the Windows background, which wasn't being used effectively to communicate, but by simply adding content to the wallpaper, look how impactful it is. When a person minimizes their applications, they're busy working in a tool like Excel or Word or in the email, in the inbox, when they minimize their windows to get to the desktop background to access an icon or a file, they are immediately targeted by the content that it is displaying on the desktop background, as you can see right here. Okay, so that is the first module you explain is a desktop background and how effective it is, because at least a dozen times a day, we will access icons and files on the desktop. And just by working with our eyes open, they are going to see the content that is rotating in the wallpaper. Now, it's important to also mention at this point that the wallpaper, you can have multiple pictures rotating in a sequence. So if you look at this example, we've got a picture that is rotating every 30 seconds in the desktop. Okay, so the wallpaper rotates every 30 seconds and you can have multiple pictures rotating. What's also important to mention for the wallpaper is that you can have different content displaying to different people in the company, depending on which department they belong to, which regional office they're at, which division, different provinces, different locations. So you're able to push different content, so different people within the organization can see different content depending on who they are. So different people can see different stuff. That's the one thing that you need to mention. And the other thing is the fact that you're able to pre-schedule content in advance. So you've got a calendar and you can schedule that on a specific date and a specific time, the campaign changes from one campaign or one set of images to another set of images. And also important to mention during the desktop section is that the content on the wallpaper is limited to static pictures only. You cannot have videos or animated files or web links. It is limited to purely static images, either as JPEG or PNG. Okay, so I suggest while you're watching this video, maybe just make a few notes about the main points to mention about the desktop, so that while you're in the demo, you can just refer to your notes and then you make sure you don't forget anything. So the important parts to mention about the desktop is, firstly, it's one of the subliminal channels. It's not interactive. It's limited to just static images. You can have multiple pictures rotating in a sequence, though, telling a story. Okay, and then and the other important features about the desktop is that different content can be pushed to different people or different groups of people, and also that content can be pre-scheduled in advance so that on a specific date and time the campaign changes. Okay. Now you explain all of this to the audience or to your customers, and but then it's now time to introduce the second module. And important to mention that the wallpaper is also very powerful, because even if you're an accountant working in Excel all day, you will minimize your applications at least a dozen times a day to access files or folders on the desktop, and people will notice if this content has changed. Okay. Then the second one you do is the screensaver, I recommend. Okay. So the screensaver, you click on the launch SCR, just you click once with your mouse. I suggest you click this icon once with your mouse, and then you press the enter key, all right? And then the screensaver will launch, and you don't touch your mouse, you leave it to run. And here you speak about the fact that the screensaver is not just limited to static images, because immediately you can see this is a video clip. And here you explain that the screensaver can be any combination of video clips. It can also be static images. It can also be an animated file, like animated GIF, or it could even be a web link. So pages from the intranet or Facebook for Business or Yammer. So any web URL can be added as content on the screensaver, or video clip, or static images, or animated GIFs, or any combination. So you could have, for example, a screensaver running this week that's 3 videos, followed by 4 pictures, followed by 2 animated GIFs, followed by an article from the intranet, and then followed by an article from Yammer. And that can be in a loop. Okay. And the same like wallpapers, different content can be pushed to different people in the organization depending on which departments they belong to or which groups they belong to. And content can also be scheduled and loaded in advance for screensavers. So you can pre-schedule them and plan your campaigns long in advance if you want to. Then you get back to your desk, you move your mouse or interrupt your screensaver, and you come back to the wallpaper. And you can, at this point, explain how the two modules, the screensaver and the wallpaper, are actually very complementary because you see the one after you see the other. So it's recommended that they probably are aligned, that they speak the same campaign, so that they enforce each other by speaking the same message. Okay. So that's the first two. It's the screensaver and the desktop background. The third module that I speak about then is the lock screen. Okay. So now the lock screen, you simply click on the Windows key, all right, the Windows key and the letter L. Let me just show you which ones are onboard on screen keyboard. So this is the Windows key, right? This one over here and the letter L. If you push them together, this one and L, your computer locks. Okay. So I'm now going to, on my laptop, push that Windows key that I'm highlighting and the letter L together. So let me show you how. You go Windows, L, and your computer locks. And immediately you can explain that this screen over here is typically the Windows screen. Now, what I actually suggest you do, in fact, before you lock it, you right-click on the desktop, you choose Personalize, and then you go down to the lock screen menu over here. So you choose the lock screen menu, all right, and you choose another picture such as, see, I want to choose a picture that's not a Windows picture. I don't have any that's not window here. So you should try and keep a picture here that's not Windows picture. Let me just see if there's another Windows. Yeah. I just want to choose a picture that's a scenery where's yeah. Okay, so I don't know where the picture is now, but you should try and keep somewhere saved on your computer a picture of, you know, one of these Windows backgrounds over here. Okay, and you keep that saved somewhere so that you're able to load it as a lock screen, because I would suggest you make a non-CLA lock screen first. So when you lock it, you see the picture of the beach or the landscape, a typical normal Windows lock screen. Okay. Then what you do is after a few seconds, you'll see it's going to apply the lock screen, which is the standard bank one. But it would be nice to first show a normal Windows lock screen picture of a beach or a landscape or a mountain range. And then then it's more impactful to show when it actually applies the CLA lock screen, how impactful it is. And then you let it rotate. You'll see there's two pictures that are rotating. Okay. And this setting with the standard bank lock screen is the one that comes together with the Anglo. So what I didn't mention in the beginning of the demo is, sorry, before you start the demo, you need to double click this Anglo batch file. Okay, this batch file called Anglo, and that is this campaign over here. It's the Anglo American. It's the Anglo wallpapers pictures. It's the Anglo screensaver video clip that we saw just now, and then it applies the standard bank lock screens, and it's these three sets of content that are saved under the Anglo batch file that's on the desktop of the demo laptop. Okay, that's that one. Then, so now you've explained the lock screen, and again, remember the lock screen is also limited only to static images. You can also load content in advance, and you can sequence different content to different people. So that ability to sequence content in advance, to load different content to different people, is applicable for all the modules. But it's nice to just remind people for the wallpaper, for the screensaver, and the lock screen on all of them, you can push different campaigns to different people or different groups of people, and you can pre-schedule your campaigns to change on a specific date and a specific time in the future, so that when you lock, if the campaign now has been configured to change at 2:30, it'll automatically change to the different campaign at 2:30. Okay, so that's the 3 subliminal modules. Now, what I do before I start the next module, which is the pop-up, I go and I double click on this batch file called blood drive, okay, or blood, or whatever you want to call it. You double click the blood drive, and then I maximize Excel. So now you cannot see the wallpaper, all right? You cannot see the wallpaper in the background, and you've got the Excel open. But before I do that, I also double click the newsletter pop-up. You see, so I double click that one, and then so you double click the blood drive, and you double click the pop-up, and then you expand Excel. That's it. So now, because you've double clicked the batch file that's called newsletter, what's going to happen now is the pop-up is going to arrive shortly that opens up the newsletter. Okay. Now, what's important to explain here is while you're waiting for the pop-up to arrive, you can see now I'm busy talking to you. All right, you just say, right, the first impact channel. Remember, there's 4 impact channels. The first one I'm going to talk about is the pop-up message, and this is the one where if you have an important announcement to make, because there's been a cyber attack, or there's a new member of your board of directors, or there's a new HR policy, you can either choose to send it as an email, in which case nobody's going to receive it. Okay, so now the pop-up arrives on the screen, and you could say that you could either have sent the pop-up as a email, or the announcement as an email, in which case you've got the same problem I spoke about in the beginning, where the announcement will sit in the inbox, and because the inbox is too full, nobody's going to pay attention and they'll just get deleted or ignored. Instead, by sending it as a pop-up, the pop-up is always the topmost window. So as you can see here, no matter what application you open, the pop-up is always on top. And I recommend that you go and you actually switch between windows and show them how the pop-up is always on top. It never goes to the back. Okay. Then the things you speak about the pop-up is the fact that it's interactive. Okay, remember, it's the first of the 4 interactive modules. So you move your mouse over the pop-up and you show that the cursor changes to a hand. Okay, and that's because there's something attached to this pop-up, something that it can link to. And you can point out that it says click here to read the newsletter. So there's a call to action. That's the point about an impact module. So not the subliminal module, but the impact module. There's a call to action. Here it says click here to read the newsletter. So there's something that it can link to. And then you explain at this point that the different things that a pop-up can link to are different types of documents, such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF. It can link to video clips, such as an MP4. It can link to an audio clip, such as an MP3. It can open up an intranet article or an internet page. It can open up a survey, a CLA survey. It can open up a ticker tape. It can launch a policy. It can open a newsletter, like this example. It can pretty much open anything that you want it to open. And it's important at this point to also say that one of the key features about the pop-up is that it is fully tracked and measured. Okay, and here you open up the admin tool and you go under reports and you show that there's a pop-up report. Okay, so here you're able to pull a report to see on whose screen the pop-up arrived, who clicked it, who snoozed it, who dismissed, and all of these reports are exportable to Excel in Excel format. Okay, now you don't need to open the report now. Just show them where the menu is. I wouldn't suggest you run any reports live. You just show them where the report is, and you then can collapse the menu again. Importantly, in this one as well, you say that you're able to pre-schedule the pop-up to arrive on a specific date at a specific time, and again to a specific audience. So you can choose exactly who must receive this pop-up and on what date and what time. And then you also say that the look and feel, the graphics behind this pop-up are completely customizable, and they can then create the skin and the look of the pop-up to be however they want it in order to advertise the campaign. Then when you're ready, you can actually action the pop-up to say click here. So when you click on the pop-up, you show them that the pop-up links to, in this example, a PDF document, which could look something like that. And you just scroll the document to show them how it looks, and let them know that the pop-up has now disappeared, gone away, and the reaction of the person to the fact that there was a click on that pop-up is now being saved, and that is what will be reportable through the CLA reporting tool under reports. Okay. What I also do at this point sometimes is to show them, so far we've looked at 4 modules. So under the modules menu, this is where you create the content. So if you wanted to publish screensavers, you would access the screensaver menu. Don't open any of the menus, just highlight them by putting your mouse over. So you would go to the screensaver menu in order to publish screensavers. You would go to the desktops menu to change the wallpapers, the backgrounds, and you would choose the lock screen menu to apply different lock screens. The example we saw now with the newsletter would have been created through the pop-up menu of the modules. And the reporting to see who saw a pop-up, who clicked it, who snoozed it, who dismissed it, would be accessible through the pop-up report. Okay, so at this point, it's just nice to show them a little bit about the menu structure. Then you minimize again, you close the PDF, you access the wallpaper, and then at this point, you act all surprised. You go, okay, well, look here, look what's happened now. This is an example of how visible the wallpaper is, because we were busy now. We were in Excel doing other things, and what's happened since I was in Excel is that the campaign has changed from being the Anglo-American return to work COVID awareness. It's now become the blood drive and how to donate blood and creating awareness around being a hero, giving blood and saving a life. And just highlight again at this point when you're seeing the wallpaper that it's a subliminal channel, and the person will be attracted to the pictures because they've changed without them changing it. Somebody else changes. They will pay attention, and also remind them about the fact that there's multiple pictures rotating in a sequence, and so the pictures are telling a story. Okay. Then what you do at this point is you then click again on the launch SCR or screensaver, and then you press the enter key, and then you show them now that the screensaver has also changed from being the Anglo-American MP4 video. The screensaver has also changed now, and it's also the blood drive, creating awareness around the blood drive, and no longer the MP4 video. And you can explain that this is an example of how the content could have been pre-scheduled in advance to change, for example, at 2:30, and because it's now 2:30, the wallpaper has changed to the blood drive and the screensaver has changed to the blood drive. Now you can also do the lock screen. Remember, just to show you, the lock screen is you push the Windows key and the letter L at the same time, okay? This Windows key on your keyboard and the letter L. So I'm going to do that now, Windows and the letter L, and this is locking your screen. Now you just need to leave this for a few seconds, show them that this is the Standard Bank campaign from just now. Remember, Anglo is the first one with the Standard Bank. And you leave it for about 15 seconds and you talk them through and you say, well, the person's going to lock their computer, they're going to see the Standard Bank campaign, but when they walk away and they come back, in the next 15 to 20 seconds, the campaign updates itself to the latest campaign, which is no longer the Standard Bank one, but it's the blood drive. And you see that the lock screen is now changed to the blood drive. And again, you can show them how the pictures, it's not just one picture, but it's multiple pictures that are rotating and telling a story. Then you push the enter key, you type in your password, and you log back in again. And the campaign now is being reinforced through the screensaver, the lock screen, and the desktop wallpaper. All three modules are speaking about the blood drive. And here you can use this as a very good example of how, without sending any emails, within a few minutes, how visible this is without relying on people having to read any emails. And that's why these are called the subliminal channels. Now, just as you're finishing up, you just double click the survey one. Okay, maybe when you've got 20 seconds left to speak, you double click the survey and you reopen Excel. The reason why I say open Excel is because you'll see now the next pop-up that arrives, the color doesn't work very well with the background. You see, the red gets lost with the background. So if you open up Excel, look how much more visible that is. Okay, now this pop-up arrives, and the first thing you need to mention is that the one difference between this pop-up and the previous one is that there's a remind me later button. Okay, and you click on this button only once. Okay, but be careful not to click on any one of these options, otherwise this pop-up will never come back again for another 4 hours or 2 hours or 8 hours, and then you've ruined the demo because the person has to come back 2 hours later. Okay, it will not come back. So you click it once and you make sure you take your mouse off it. Then you show them the snooze options. You can highlight them, but be careful not to click. Okay, and you explain to them that when a pop-up is created, you can choose to make it snoozable, giving the user the flexibility of snoozing for a later time if it's not convenient to see the pop-up now. Okay, so in this example, we've got 2 hours, 4 hours, and 8 hours, but you can explain that you could have it less, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour. You get to choose as the publisher what snooze options are available to the end user. And if you want to, you can go into the pop-ups module and show them on the pop-up screen which options are available. So by scrolling down to the snooze options, you click on snoozable, and here you can see which ones are. Here we've got 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, which is matching what we've got over here. Okay. So then what you say, you just click once in the middle of the pop-up. Okay, that doesn't actually click the pop-up, that just gets rid of the menu. So clicking on remind me later, clicking once in the middle, just gets rid of that menu. And then you can carry on talking if you want. But now what you explain here is that there's actually 2 modules being presented. The one is the pop-up, because that's what we're seeing on the screen. But when you click on the pop-up, it's going to open up the next module, which is the survey module. Now the survey module, before you click on this pop-up, you explain that there's 3 capabilities of the survey. It's not just a questionnaire. It's more complicated, more sophisticated than just a questionnaire. Okay, so there's 3 capabilities of the survey. The one is the ability to gather general feedback. The second capability is RSVP and event management. And the third capability of the survey is to run a quiz or an assessment. And just explain to them that when you click on this pop-up, the survey is going to show, and there's going to be a number of questions. And in the questions, we're going to illustrate how it can be used, firstly, for capability number 1, which is gathering feedback, and then capability number 2, which is the testing and training, and then capability number 3, which is, capability number 2 is the RSVP, and then capability number 3 is the testing and training. So now I'm going to click on this pop-up, and what you'll see is that you just told them that the pop-up disappears, and this time it doesn't open up a PDF document like the first example linking to a newsletter. It opens up Impact module number 2, which is the survey clipboard. And again, you can obviously explain that the branding, the look and feel can obviously be adjusted per customer. And what you're seeing at the top is the title of the survey and then the introduction message to the survey. Then you click on Start Now, and you'll see that there's 7 questions in this survey. Now, the first 3 questions you must explain that are illustrating gathering general feedback. That's capability number 1. Then questions 4, 5, and 6 will illustrate capability number 2, which is the RSVP and event management. And then the last question, question number 7, is going to illustrate how the tool can be used to run a quiz or to do testing and training assessments. So question number 1, how satisfied are you with communications in our company? Here you see it's a single select. You can pick one of the options, okay? So pick satisfied. Then don't worry about the snooze quite yet. Just explain that this particular question is marked as anonymous. So if you feel that a question is sensitive and you want the person to answer openly and honestly, you can mark that question as anonymous, and then the person will know that that their identity is being concealed, and tell them that you'll show them in the reporting at the end how anonymous questions are reported. Okay, so this is question number 1. You click on next, and then you say this is question number 2, also illustrating gathering general feedback, but slightly different in that it's a multi-select. You can pick more than one option from the list available. Then you go to question number 3, also gathering general feedback, but this one is illustrating the rearrange capability, where you can rearrange items in order of importance. So I normally put communications must be company related as number 1, then fun, then informative, and then interactive. Then you move on to question 4, and you say, well, you can see here that it's the RSVP question. But before we get to question number 4, let's say you're on question number 3 and you've got work to do now. Point out, show them that the never remind me is not an option. Okay, it's not enabled. That's because this particular survey has been configured to be compulsory. Okay. It is flexible in the sense that the user has the option to snooze, but they do not have the option to opt out. But they can say snooze, they click on yes, and the survey goes away. Now, what you need to do very quickly is you need to open up Outlook and you need to go to the 27th of November. Okay? And what you need to show here is that this particular day is completely open. Well, it's got some meetings now, but you click on the pop-up, and you open on the 27th of November. Now, what we can actually do, we can actually modify that date. So maybe one day I can do a meeting with you and we can change that date to be the future, because now I remember it's in the past. So maybe we set it up for March or April next year, at least for the next 3 or 4 months. You're not going to have an issue. But I need to help you set it up, because there's dependencies and everything that'll disappear if you save changes. So let's arrange the time to do it together. But in the meantime, I've got the diary open on the 27th. So when I go continue, show them that the survey continues from where you left off, from question number 3. Then you go to question number 4 and you show them, okay, now it asks, would you like to attend the meeting? Now, if I say no, point out that you're on question 4 out of 7. And when you go next, you go straight to question 7. So it's important that you choose no as your answer. Then you go next, and then you show them that it skips question 5 and 6. And you explain to them that the reason why it skips question 5 and 6 is because because I answered no, that I'm not attending the function, that questions 5 and 6 are not relevant. So that's why it skips them and it goes straight to question 7. Now, what you must do from here is you must go back to question number 4. Then you say yes. You say you're changing your answer to yes. And then when you click on next and you choose yes, to watch Outlook, draw the attention to Outlook in the background and say, like, when I choose yes, watch what happens. It puts it directly into the diary. Okay, now make sure that Outlook is open so that they can see it arriving in the diary. It makes a very big impact. Then, now you explain that because I've accepted or said, yes, I'm attending, now it's relevant to show me or ask me my dietary requirement, which is why it's now showing me question number 5. And in this particular question, you must choose a specific, either vegetarian or halal or kosher. Okay, choose one of these. And then from question 5, you show them how it still skips question 6 and goes to question 7. And it's only if you go back and choose other that you'll then have the opportunity to do a free text. And then you type something like allergic to dairy. Okay. And then you explain at this point that these 3 questions, questions 4, 5, and 6, have illustrated, firstly, direct Outlook integration and how you can use this tool for RSVP. But it's also illustrated how you can configure a survey to navigate differently depending on how you answer. Okay, so now you've illustrated the first 3 questions was gathering feedback. The next 3 questions was RSVP. Now the last question, question 7, reads, in which year was the first version of CLA released? Now you explain to them this isn't an opinion question. It's not an RSVP. This is a testing question. It's a quiz, because only one of these options over here is correct and the rest are incorrect. And then you must explain that the user knows that they're being scored because the button is actually labeled mark. So the user knows that this is an assessed question and are being marked about this question. Then you ask, and this is where I suggest you get participation from your audience. And you get them to say, all right, I want one of you to guess or to tell me which year you think the first version was released. And then they sit and they think and they look at the screen and go, okay, well, normally it's 2000 or 2009. If the person answers, the correct answer is 2008. If they answer 2008, I would suggest you just tell them, okay, well done, you got the correct answer, but I'd like to show you what happens if you choose the incorrect answer. Then you would choose either 2000 or 2009, and then you click on the mark button. Okay, but if they've chosen an incorrect answer, any one of these, just you obviously choose the option that they've chosen, and then you click on mark. If they chose the correct answer, then just change it. Say to them, okay, you got it right, but I want to show you how it looks when you get it wrong. Then you click on the mark button, and here you see that it marks the person incorrect, and it actually shows them what the correct answer. And yeah, what you should do is explain to them that yes, it is a testing question, it is an assessment, because from this tool over here, and you open the tool to show them, you say it is an assessed question because from this tool, you can go into the reports and you can pull a survey report, and not only can you see the answers to all the other questions, but you'll also, on this particular scored question, you'll be able to see who got it right, who got it wrong. Obviously, if it's not anonymous. If it's anonymous, you cannot see who got it right and who got it wrong. But if it's not anonymous, you'll be able to see who got it right, who got it wrong, what percentage was correct and incorrect, what was the most popular incorrect answer. But so there you can explain that it is actually an assessment, but it's also training, you can explain, right? To say, well, besides the fact that you pull the report to see who got it right and wrong and, punish staff if you want to punish them or put them in training, besides it being assessment, it's also training, because here on the screen, it's showing you what the correct answer is. And tell the audience that now if you ask them tomorrow, there's a very good chance that they're going to tell you what the correct answer is. So it's training as much as it is testing. Okay, then you click on next, you explain that this is the conclusion screen, and because one or more questions were scored, that's why you got the summary banner showing you how many answers were correct and how many were incorrect. Then you can just tell them that this is a salutation message. You click on finish and it's gone. Okay. Now, what we do next is we just show them what the survey, or we can show them what the event looks like in the diary, the reminder. You double click this reminder. It's going to open up the reminder. And firstly, you show them that, you explain to them, because they answered yes to this question, are you attending the function? A pre-configured calendar item that is saved inside of CLA is then saved into the person's diary automatically. And this pre-configured calendar item, you're able to configure certain attributes about this calendar item, certain fields you can pre-configure. And the fields that you can configure for the reminder that gets automatically saved are private, high, and low importance. You can specify how it shows in the diary, as well as how it shows in terms of out of office, busy, tentative. Then reminder, whether it's how long before the event the reminder must actually go off. You can configure the title, the start and end date and time range. You can specify a location. You can specify a body, and even add an attachment such as map, agenda, directions, etc. So you just explain that this is what the meeting request would look like in your diary. Then what I suggest you do is you minimize all your windows again. Now this is going to come up as because it's in the past. Okay, your meeting has already started. Remember, it's on the 27th. So until we change your actual meeting request to be in the future, this is always going to pop up. So you must just choose dismiss or whatever to get rid of it. Okay. Then what you do is you open up the survey report. I saved on your desktop a file called survey report. So you double click this and you open it up. And then you explain that this particular survey has got 8 questions. The one that I did now in the demo only had 7 questions. This is a different survey, different questions. This one's got 8 questions. And you explain that each question exports on a different sheet. Okay, so each one has got its own tab. And question number 1 reads, would you recommend our products to your families and friends? And this is a split between yes and no. So graphical representation of the data. And then you point out that question number 1 is also anonymous. Remember, our question number 1 in our survey was also anonymous. And we said that we're going to show in the reporting how anonymous questions are treated. So here you say, well, this is also anonymous. Let me show you how anonymous questions are treated. When you scroll down, there's a summarize banner showing you how many people said yes and how many people said no. I cannot see what individual answers are. And what I always like to do is bring in the actual person's name. So if I've got a meeting with Katia and Edma and Antonio, then I will say, I cannot see here what Antonio answered and what Katia answered and what Edma answered, because the data for individual responses is not available because it's anonymous. Okay. Then what you do is you go to sheet number 8. Now I recommend you never save the spreadsheet in between. Okay. And I'll show you why. So even if I'm going and I'm scrolling and expanding, when I get to sheet number 8, okay, this example over here has got, you explain to them that there's 2 differences between this question and question number 1. The one difference is that it's a scored question, which is why we got the second pie chart, okay? But the other question is that it's not anonymous. So we expect to see individual responses per user. We expect to see a response for Antonio, for Edma, and for Katia, because it's not anonymous. Okay, then we go back to the scoring and say, right, now because it's scored, there's 2 pie charts. The question reads, which of the following is not covered by our company? You know the correct answer. You must say, I know the correct answer is medical aid 122. So that is why there are 122 correct answers, because the correct answer is medical aid. And then you can point out to say that this chart shows you graphically, immediately, it's easy to see that most people got this question wrong because of the big red slice. And so when you scroll down, or before even going down, you know that there's a knowledge problem And that CLA survey has highlighted the need to train people in a specific area. But now when you scroll down under the summarized breakdown, because you know medical aid is the correct answer, okay, it's very easy to see that loans was the most popular incorrect answer that was provided. And so you actually know where you need to start focusing your training attention. Why is it that people think that loans is not one of the products? Where does this knowledge problem come in? How do we fix it? So not only does it show you the breakdown per response, it also shows you the correct answer and the most popular incorrect answer. But now it's important for you to say that because this particular question was not marked as anonymous, when you scroll down, you'll see the second grid where you'll see every person's username, okay, the Windows username, what the full name is, the full Active Directory name, what PC they were sitting at, the name of the PC that they were working at, what they responded, the timestamp of their response, as well as whether they got this question correct or incorrect. Now, you've got to scroll down to show them how an incorrect answer is reported as opposed to a correct answer. Okay. Then you ask if there's any questions on surveys, on pop-ups, so we can move on to the next impact module. So if there's no questions on the reporting of surveys, don't save the Excel spreadsheet. The reason why I say that, if you close now and you do not save anything, when you reopen the survey report, it's going to open. You see, now I've saved at this point. See, now that's the problem. So what you should always do before you start the survey, make sure that you collapse, you go right to cell A1, so you're right at the top, and sheet 1 that you collapse, and you go, and now you hit save. Okay, so that when you open up your report again, it's going to open up nice and clean on question 1 like that. Okay. Right. So now, if there's no questions on surveys and no questions on the reporting of surveys, I suggest at this point you do two things. Number one, you double-click cyber, and number two, you double-click policy. Once you've done those two things, you then reopen up Excel, okay, the blank one, and you just have it on your screen like that. And then you talk about policies, okay, policies. And at this point, you say, well, if a company wants to enforce a policy because there's been a change to an HR policy, a change to an IT security policy, what they would typically do is they would take the policy, they would save it on the intranet, and they would then send an email to everybody with a link to that page on the intranet and hope that everybody goes and looks at that policy. But instead, you now remind them about the fact that we know there's a problem with emails. People get too many emails, and the minute you're going to send an email that's linking to an article on the intranet, then it's going to get ignored. And people are not going to open it, and that policy is never going to get read. And that is where they get very, very poor levels of internal audit and compliance, because policies are never actually adhered to by staff or never actually looked at. Instead, and then now while you're busy talking about the policy, you're wasting time. That batch file that you clicked over here called policy has now automatically dispatched this policy onto the screen. And you show them that, look at this now, the policy has arrived on the screen. It's on the topmost window. You can show them again that even if you flick between applications, that pop-up is always going to be on top of all of the other windows. Okay. And you show them how it's always on top. Then you can explain to them that the position of the pop-up on the screen, okay, doesn't need to just be, and I always open up Excel because I can highlight the cells like this to show that it can be in the bottom. It doesn't only have to be the bottom left-hand corner like the other ones. It can be in the middle of the screen. It can be on the bottom. So it doesn't always have to be bottom right. It can be bottom left. It can be middle right. It can be middle left. It can be the middle of the screen. And you can explain to them that the pop-up can appear anywhere on the screen, anywhere you want. Then in this example, you obviously say they must use this format very sparingly. Middle of the screen is very, very intrusive. A person can't really work like this. So you must only limit this type of pop-up format in situations where it is very critical, that you've got an urgent announcement to make, and this is the place to put it. It's also not snoozable. You'll notice the Remind Me Later button doesn't appear on this example, so it's highly intrusive, this pop-up, and to be used only on very, very critical occasions. Then you click on this pop-up, And you explain now that in this example, it didn't open up a document or a survey, it opened up a policy container that looks something like this. Obviously, the branding will be per customer, but this is the title of the policy. This is the introduction message of the policy. And then you click on next. I explained to the customer that you can also have snoozes. So in this case, there's 3 snoozes, and every time you click snooze, it counts down 3, 2, 1. You can have as many snoozes as you want, but obviously, if you have too many snoozes, you're going to defeat the purpose of getting people to actually view this. So maybe give them 3 or 4 snoozes. You also have the option to allow them to save a copy of this particular document, this PDF, as a policy. But now here you'll see, explain to them that this is the policy. It's embedded. It's a PDF document embedded in this CLA policy container. But point out, don't scroll to the bottom. Point out and show that the next button is disabled. You click on it, show them. You cannot click on the next button. And it's only once you've scrolled to the bottom and show them this red text that says, you need to read the policy to the end to be able to continue. And only once you get to the bottom of this policy, okay, then you show them that this text arrives and explain that they can have up to 5 options available. We've only got 2 in this example, and they can put whatever text they want. The text in this example is, I understand and accept, or I do not accept this policy. You could have up to 5 with whatever text that they want. And the next button remains unusable until you make a selection. When I choose an option, then the next button is enabled. Click on next. And it's at that point, it saves the same data that you saw saved for the survey. The username, the machine name, the IP address, the response, the date stamp of the response, as well as that policy ID. Okay, it saves all of that information. And then you open up this admin tool and you show them under the reports, this policy report. You put your mouse over it, just highlight, you show them that through this policy report, they're able to pull detail as far back as when they first implemented CLA. There's no archiving, and they can go back and pull details and people's responses against any policy that was run from here. And it's important to mention as well that on all the impact channels, pop-ups, surveys, policies, anything that requires an interactive call to action, CLA achieves in excess of 90 to 95% within a few days. And that's because of the impact that the pop-up has, because it's not sitting in the inbox. So 90 to 95% is very average, very normal for you to achieve on any pop-up or survey or policy completion rates. Then you can just show them that this is a conclusion screen, and you can have links here to email addresses, say, of your compliance officer or your HR officer, as well as links to the intranet. And maybe what you can explain here is you say that this isn't supposed to be a very long 20-page policy, okay? You should get them to summarize it into 1 page, just like this. And then if they want to have the long policy with all the small print, they can still put it on the intranet, and on this page, they can have a link to the intranet that takes them to that long, detailed policy. But all you're showing here is the summary. Then you click on finish, and again, explain to them that they're going to get 90 to 95% response rates. Okay. The next thing I'd like to show you is now you minimize all your windows again, and what you'll see, boom. Okay, remember when we launched the policy, we double-clicked cyber and policy. Now, while we were illustrating the policy, the wallpaper's changed. And now you can take the opportunity to show them, well, look here, my wallpaper's changed. It's no longer the blood drive. Look how visible this is. Okay, now it's also got multiple pictures rotating, telling a story. And when my screensaver launches, remember, click once on this icon and then press the enter. The screensaver launches, and it's also now no longer the blood drive, and it's explaining about cybersecurity and how to avoid becoming a victim of cybercrime. Then you interrupt your screensaver. Okay, so now you've got the screensaver and the desktop that you've shown. Now you lock your computer. Remember, by pushing the Windows key and the letter L, Windows and letter L, your computer locks, and you show them that now it's got the blood drive campaign still, but for the next 15 seconds or 20 seconds, until the computer realizes that the lock is on. Then it goes and applies the updated lock screen campaign, which shortly you'll see now is going to change from the blood drive to cybersecurity as well. So then you just talk them through, just waste a bit of time speaking about how, remind them that this is such a powerful module, because it's the first screen you see in the morning before you start working. So if you've got an announcement to make, using the lock screen is the ideal place to put content, because it's the first thing people see before they actually log in and settle down and start working. So here, as you can see, the cybersecurity content is displaying, and you can show them that it's multiple pictures rotating through the screen. Every few seconds, the image is changing of the cybersecurity. Then you can press the enter key and tell them that you can then type in your password and you log back in again, and it's done. Okay. So the next module I want to take you through is the training one. So this one over here is also called training on your demo laptop. Now you double click this one, and while you're waiting for this one to arrive, you open up Excel again, and you speak about the use of video and how video has become so important, because the amount of information you can get through in a video is a lot more than you can. You'd have to get people to read lots of text or attend meetings. So here, with a video clip, you can have an animation made. It's fun, it's fresh, it's friendly, it's exciting, and the use of video to educate staff on matters such as COVID awareness, which we don't even need to speak about anymore. Let's talk about things like health and safety, or educate people on cybersecurity, educate people on your company values. Whatever it is, video is always very powerful, and even especially if it's an animated video. Okay, and while you're busy talking through all of this stuff, wasting some time, that pop-up's going to arrive while you're busy speaking about the video. Now, point out again this particular example. Remember, click once on here and just highlight. Don't click on any of these snoozes, or you will lose the pop-up. Okay. Here you'll see that there's different snooze options, and then when you want to get off the snooze options, you just click once in the middle of the pop-up and they disappear. Okay. So in this particular example, this video is going to illustrate the use of cybersecurity and how to avoid becoming a victim of cybercrime. So you click on this pop-up, and explain that it opens up in the custom video viewer that could look something like this.
In the next few minutes, you'll see how to protect yourself against phishing
Now,
and spear
explain
phishing
to the
attacks.
customer that you're running through our built-in video viewer has got a lot of advantages, because you can now choose what buttons are available. So, for example, if you don't want people to minimize, then you don't have the minimize available. If you don't want people to close, you don't have the close button available. You don't want them to fast forward or rewind, you disable the fast forward and rewind. So there's a lot of customization you can make to the video viewer to prevent people from dismissing the video without watching it. So here the person's forced to watch. Yes, they can resume and they can pause and snooze. And they can snooze, but you limit the snoozes. You wouldn't give 99,000 snoozes. This is only for demo reasons. But you explain to the customer, you maybe give 3 snoozes. And every time they snooze, it counts down. 2, 1, 0 remaining. And then this becomes gray. Then they can't snooze anymore. Then they have to watch the video. Then what I do at this point is I say to them, look, it's a very short video. It's 20 or 30 seconds. And you just want to play through the video to show them how the video works and to give the effect. Then you click on resume and you let the video play until it finishes, like this.
Meet Paul Essie, 42 years old. He specializes in IT security and thinks of himself as the 007 of the cybercrime world. He likes his strawberry smoothies shaken, not stirred. You might think that IT security creates policies just to make your life more difficult, but this is not the case. Is someone planning on robbing your data? Answer these quick questions before you go.
Okay, and now that the video finishes, point out how this button arrives. You see this button arrived at the end of the video, okay? And that's because you can configure the video that if it's the type of video where you want people to pay attention and then you want to quiz them after the video, you can run an assessment after that video finishes, okay? But we've seen, now what I always do over here, because there is actually no assessment linked to this, you tell them, listen, well, we've already seen how this assessment works. We've already seen how the survey works. So we're not going to launch the survey in the interest of saving time. We're just going to click on snooze, and then the survey disappears. The video disappears. Okay. And that's the end of the video section. Ask any questions, if there's any questions, etc. Okay. Now what you do, the last module is the ticker tape. So what we do with the ticker tape is you open up the module, the admin tool, we go under modules and you choose ticker tape. Now, first thing we do is just explain what is a ticker tape. So the ticker tape, we explain That is this. Now, if it asks you to save, just say no. The ticker tape we explain. This is the scrolling text that appears on the bottom. You just put your mouse and show them. It's the text that scrolls at the bottom of the screen when you're watching the news. Okay, and you explain that your main story is in the screen on the main window, and then at the bottom normally you got the scrolling text with the headlines or the weather or share prices scrolling at the bottom, and it's the scrolling text that's at the bottom of the screen that we call our ticker tape module. Then you explain to them the reason why. I don't know why this has come back again. Okay, if it comes back again, just click through straight away. Okay. And explain to them that the reason why we have not seen any ticker tapes today is because if you look at the active tickers, there are no tickers. Show them here that there are no tickers that are currently active. So what we're going to do now is, and you do this in the demo, you go under the tickers, you choose expired tickers, okay? And then this ticker number 3, the one with Addo Elephant, pick that one. You click on it, okay? You click on it, and then you go here and you change the date. You change the date to be today's date, okay? Today's the 29th, okay? See here. And then you click on save. And then you go back to the active and you show them that there now is one ticker available. The reason why you do this in the beginning is so that now the system has got enough time to pull that ticker tape while you carry on talking. So now I'm going to carry on explaining about the ticker tape. And while I'm explaining about the ticker tape, the CLA system in the background is doing a synchronize, and it's busy pulling this ticker tape that's now active. So that at least when I want to demo the ticker now, it's going to be ready to show. Okay. So now what you do is you show them that there's an active ticker, and you click on this because there's nothing populated, and I see the screen is empty here. So you have to click on this ticker, and then all this information appears about this ticker that you've selected. You click on the ticker, right? You don't tick like this, you click on it. Then all the detail about that ticker tape shows on the right-hand side, okay? And the things you need to point out about the ticker, firstly, is that the time range. It's running until the 29th of November between the hours of 1 and 11. So because it's between that time, we expect to see the ticker tape now. The other thing you must point out about the ticker is the text. And you highlight the words click here. Right? And you say, well, the ticker tape message says, please click here to read our latest Addo Elephant newsletter. And then you must emphasize the fact that it says click here. This suggests that the ticker tape is interactive, that you're going to have the ability to interact with it, to click on it. There's a call to action. The call to action is click here. So you expect that ticker to be interactive. Now, what can the ticker link to when you click on it? And that is where you highlight this top section. You show them that it can link to the same things that the pop-up can link to. So such as documents, all the things we've seen today, the newsletter, the survey, the video clip, the policy, okay? All of those, the ticker can open the same things. It can also open up things we haven't seen yet today in the demo, such as the intranet articles. It can open up ticker tapes. Well, the ticker is a ticker already, but it can open up, the ticker tape can open up any type of other documents, such as Word, PowerPoint, PDF, Excel. It can open up anything that the pop-up can open, the ticker tape can open as well. So you can go back to the pop-up section and just have it listen to all the things that I said that the pop-up can open, the ticker can open the same. And then you explain to the customer that this is the text, it's opening a document, and we expect it to open up a PDF document. So show them, we expect this particular example to open up a PDF. And then you explain to the customer that there's 2 different ways that the ticker tape displays. The one is via screensaver, and the other one is on its own. Okay, now what you do is you minimize all the applications, so you got the desktop now. And all you do is you click on the screensaver. Again, remember, just click on once so that it's highlighted, and then you press the enter key. And you explain to the customer that now the screensaver launches, but because there's a ticker tape, all right, the screensaver zooms down and the ticker scrolls at the bottom. Now, this is why we had to save that ticker a while ago and then go and talk all about it, so that the system has enough time to pull the ticker tape and to synchronize as it's done, so that by the time you launch the screensaver, there's been enough time for the system to pull that ticker tape. Okay. Then explain to them the look and feel, or the branding of the ticker. In this case, on the bottom left-hand corner, you see that there's the KPMG logo. Okay. So you would say whatever the client is, if you're presenting to Porto de Maputo or Bayport or whatever, you would say that their logo will be there. And also the font of the text that's scrolling can be adjusted. The type of font, the size of the font, the color of the font can be changed, and also the background color. So 4 things can be changed: the actual font, the font color, the font size, and the background color can be changed to be in alignment with their branding and their logos and their look and feel. So in this case, it's very KPMG look. Then what you do is you say, right, now if I want to click on that ticker message and I move my mouse to click on that ticker message, because it's a screensaver, you show them that everything closes, right? Because it's a screensaver. Then I would suggest you open up Excel quickly, all right? And you can say, well, you see, while I'm busy working in Excel, the system, because the ticker tape is linked to something, it's linked to this newsletter, okay? The system automatically relaunches the ticker tape and puts it on top of the taskbar. So I can carry on working. I can still access my menus at the bottom, and I can access whatever I want. But now, because the ticker tape is running without the screensaver, you'll see that I'm able to interact with that ticker. When you put your mouse on it, it pauses. When you take your mouse off, it moves. Now, it's also important to explain that if the ticker is in the way, let's say I want to get to something in this ticker tapes and I want to get behind here, you can minimize it by clicking on this minimize button, and the ticker collapses to the side. If you then want to expand it again, all you do is you click on this arrow and it then expands and it carries on scrolling. Now, because the ticker tape is now running without the screensaver, it is interactive. You put your mouse over the message, it pauses, you click on that ticker message, and it'll open up, in this case, the linked item, which was the sandparks.pdf newsletter. Remember, that's what we showed over here. Okay. And then it's also important to mention from the reporting point of view, because it's an impact channel, it's interactive, there's a call to action. Under reports, you'll see that there's a ticker report. And this is the report where you can go and you can see who's seen what ticker messages and who's interacted with any of the ticker messages. And also, all of these reports are exportable to Excel. Okay, all of them. All the ones you've seen: survey, pop-up, ticker, policy, all of them. Okay. And then what you can say is, now because the ticker has been seen, the user has got the option of clicking on the X, all right? And then the ticker tape disappears and it's gone. Okay, so that is the demo. And what I normally do at the end of the demo is I just summarize the modules very quickly. And I say, right, just to recap, remember there are 2 different categories of modules. There is the category called the subliminal modules. And these are the modules that are designed to communicate with the staff, but almost in a way that they don't realize it's happening. Okay, and those 3 modules you recap here is: number 1 is a desktop background. Okay, number 2 is a lock screen or the login screen, and then the third subliminal module is the screensaver. And then you click on that and you show the screensaver. You say these 3 modules, the screensaver that you're seeing now, the desktop background, and the lock screen, are all 3 designed to increase a company's ability to communicate with staff, to get greater levels of awareness, but very specifically through reducing the amount of email. Okay, it's very important that you stress the fact that these modules are used to create awareness, but very specifically by reducing the need to send so many emails to create that awareness. So those are the 3 subliminal channels. Then while you're busy talking now, there's enough time for the ticker tape to launch. And then you say another 3 impact channels. Number 1 is the ticker tape. Okay, and then you can just close it. And the second impact channel is the pop-up, which can arrive in any one of the positions and have lots of link types. The third impact channel is the survey, which has got, and remind them, it's got the 3 capabilities of the ability to gather feedback, to do an RSVP, as well as to do a quiz or testing and training. And then the last module, the 4th module of impacts, is the policy and compliance module. Okay, the video we saw is part of the pop-up, so it bundles with a pop-up, but the policy and compliance is its own module. And that's the summary. And then you, from this point, you go to questions. So I hope that this has helped you. I really recommend that you watch this video a few times over and over and over. I do things in this particular order because it really works this way. I've been doing these demos for 10 years, and I've got a process and a system that works really well. I recommend strongly that you watch this video a lot of times, and then you practice on your own system to see that you can get the demo to be within 45 minutes so that you've got 50 minutes of questions. Obviously, this demo has taken longer because I've been talking and explaining, but you should try and do your demo in 45 minutes. But always go back and have a look at my video and make sure you haven't forgotten anything. And I really recommend you do it in the order that I do my demo in, and show the things that I show in this specific order, because it really does work well, and it has been a formula that has been very successful. So thank you for your attention, and I hope that this video was useful.